Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Long Lens Podcast. This is the podcast where I answer questions from my filmmaking and YouTube community, and we just talk all things cameras, filmmaking, YouTube. So today we have another Q&A episode. If you are watching on YouTube, I'm in kind of a different space. I just kind of felt like getting out of my office. It's starting to get pretty nice here in Portland. So yeah, we're just going to answer some questions. I say this all the time, but I'm kind of a kook. I don't know everything. So I'm just going to be trying to answer these questions to the best of my abilities. So this podcast is more just like a fun side thing for me. I don't have any sponsors, but if you would like to support this podcast in any way, you can support me on Patreon, or you can check out the affiliate links in the show notes and description of these episodes, and you can support this podcast this way. So the way that it works is on Patreon, I always answer my Patreon questions first. We didn't get any questions on Patreon this month, so I'm going to go straight to the YouTube post tab, and we have a few questions there that should be pretty good. But before we get into that, I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping when it comes to gear. I am shooting this episode on my GH5. I have my Godox MoveLink wireless microphone kit, and I am shooting with my small HD Focus 5, and I can kind of see myself. It is daylight viewable, but I am like, I don't know, 7 feet away from my camera. I'm using my little wireless shutter release to set my focus and start and stop recording. And I'm just shooting in 10-bit 422 long GOP 4K. So those are the tech specs. First question is, hey Nigel, I know you have the BGH1. I was thinking if maybe the Blackmagic 4K Micro G2, well, a P4K in a miniature form would not have been a better choice. I think they share the same sensor size, the P4K and the GH5S, minus the OLPF for the P4K. That's why it's prone to IR pollution like hell. I wonder why nobody's talking about the micro 4K G2 camera in the MFT world. In a multicam setup live stream, it's a perfect camera. Yeah, I know about that camera. As far as multicam live stream, I don't do that, so that's irrelevant to me. I know that Will Von Toggen has done some videos on the micro 4K G2 camera. And I guess the main reason why I didn't go for that is mostly because I wanted the BGH1. I liked the OLPF. I like that it's a Netflix approved camera, and I just wanted to try that camera, to be honest. That's one of the main reasons. Not to say that there's anything wrong with Blackmagic stuff. I love Blackmagic stuff, but I do feel like it's kind of like when you put a full frame lens on like a micro 4/3 or super 35 body. It's like you're paying for the full frame glass, but you're only using a small portion of it. And that's how I feel about Blackmagic stuff, because I don't edit in Resolve full time. I feel like I'm leaving stuff on the table by not shooting in B-RAW. And so since I don't shoot in B-RAW, it doesn't seem worth it to buy a Blackmagic camera because I don't edit in DaVinci Resolve. I'm still an Adobe Premiere guy. So that's one of the main reasons. I do think that it's cool that there is that pocket or that micro 4K G2. And honestly, I might still try one. Who knows? I think that's a really cool that Blackmagic is still like doing stuff with that. I actually played with that camera a little bit at NAB, and it was, hooked up to the new Pixis monitor, and it was sick. Like you can control everything with the Pixis monitor, and it's like this small little micro 4/3 cinema camera, which is rad. Okay, this next question is, what are your thoughts on the Canon R50v? Now, my initial thoughts when it first came out was, okay, it's just an R50, but looking at it again, it's kind of in like that FX30 kind of body style, and it has a lot of pro video features, and I'm not sure if it has a fan, but if it didn't overheat, I feel like that would actually be kind of a sick little camera. And it's actually kind of got me thinking a little bit about like using a Canon again. There's a lot of like video features that were packed into the R50V that are in the original R50, and it's, it makes sense because it has like the V in it, so it's meant for video, but it's got tally lights on it, you guys. Like this could actually be used for, some interview doc style stuff if you really wanted to. And I know a lot of people are going to use that camera for streaming, but I'm always interested in like what's like the smallest little camera that I can use to, make some really high quality stuff, and not been messing with Canon cameras for the longest time. I think the last Canon camera that I owned was the 80D. That was a while back. So I know Canon does make good stuff, but I feel like they're always late to the game. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like Lumix has stuff in like a GH5 that you still can't buy in a consumer level Canon camera. So that's one of the main reasons why I haven't really like used a Canon camera. It's just because I feel like for the price, pound for pound, you can get more out of a Lumix. But if I was going to try a Canon camera, I think the R50v is a really good contender because it's got a lot of really cool features in it, and it's not really that expensive. It's like what, $699, or like under $1,000. It's under $1,000, which is sick, and it has 10-bit 422 C-Log 3, I'm pretty sure, and it's got that great Canon dual pixel autofocus. So I don't know. I mean, one of these days I might try it. Who knows? What I will say is Canon is starting to do stuff that seems like they're trying to keep up with the competition. Like the new R8 looks actually kind of sick, and it's got a lot of features that, some of the Nikons and Lumixes doesn't even have. It's got really good autofocus. It's got a pretty fast readout sensor. Yeah, I think Canon is, I think maybe they're starting to realize that they kind of have to like start keeping up with what Nikon and Lumix and Sony are doing. All right, so next question is regular or goofy? This could be Switch in the thumbnail. Yeah, so the thumbnail that I used for the Q&A ask, I was doing a pivot to fakie. So I skate regular. To be honest, I suck at Switch. Like it would take me 10, 20 tries to do a Switch flip. So yeah, I wish I could skate Switch better. I get my nollie flips back, but yeah, my switch stance skating is subpar at best. Okay, this next question is, what is your latest video making insight? Regards, Ivan Martinek. Hey, Ivan, he's one of my Patreon supporters. That's pretty sweet. Latest video making insight. I guess something that I've been learning, one of my biggest insights right now is that less is more. Like the less gear that I bring with me, I feel like I can create more. If you have too many options sometimes, I feel like it kind of cripples you, or at least it can in my point of view. If I have one lens attached to my camera and I go out and I'm just forced to make something with that one lens, then I feel like I'm just a little bit more creative. If I have like 5 or 6 lenses, I'm always like second guessing what I should be shooting. That's not always the case. Like there are some times where I really wish I had like a telephoto lens, which, right now I'm shooting on the 12 to 35, and sometimes I just wish I had the 35 to 100 just to like get a little closer in. Yeah, my latest like video insight is just try to pare down your kit as much as you can. I feel like you might actually find that you're a little more creative when you create some constraints for yourself. Sometimes having too much options can be paralyzing. So yeah, just try to pare down your kit, and you might actually find that you can create content, at least for YouTube, a lot easier. All right, so next question is, hi Nigel, I've purchased the BGH1 and I'm currently finding a monitor. What budget monitors can you recommend? If possible, the smallest and most compact monitor for run and gun filmmaking. Thanks. Yeah, I think that the Small HD Focus 5 is a great option if you're looking for something really nice and small, but still bright enough to see outside and also affordable. This is an older monitor, so you can get it for around $200, the HDMI version. The SDI version is a little more expensive. That's more around like $250 to $300. For the BGH1, you can go either way. I liked the SDI version just because it's a lot cleaner of a cable. And the SDI is a much more secure connection, but the HDMI is just as good. It's just the HDMI runs along the back and the bottom, whereas the SDI is more of the back and on top. So it's just a cleaner line of cables to go to SDI. So yeah, the Small HD Focus 5 HDMI or the SDI version is good. You could also look into the OC T5 Plus, which is a brighter monitor than the Small HDs. It's 1,000 nits. The Small HDs are only 800 nits. Also, the OC Lilmon 5 is another good option. That's an HDMI monitor. And you could also look into some of the stuff from Portkeys, because some of the Portkeys monitors will actually control some of the BGH1's controls. So Portkeys would be a good option if you want some extra camera control in your monitor. Those are the ones that I would recommend. If you don't need camera control, Small HD Focus 5, OC Lilmon 5, and if you want camera control, look into some of the Portkeys monitors like the LHP5 or something. I forget all the Portkeys. I'll put some links in the description if you want to know the ones that I would recommend for the BGH1. All right, so next question is waffles or pancakes? Honestly, I like waffles. I like the texture, and I like being able to just like put some syrup and have it just like pool in the little tiny cups of the waffles. Oof, so good. And I skate Vans. So if you know anything about Vans, Vans have the waffle sole. That's how you can kind of tell that they're Vans when you're like walking on the beach and you see like the waffle sole. It's a Vans shoe. So waffles all day. Okay, next question is, what's your dream lens, both practical and impossible? Practically, I think my dream lens would be like a 24 to 105 f2. I think that Canon makes the 28 to 105 or something like that, f2.8. I'm not sure if there's an f2 constant aperture that has that range. So maybe that's my impossible lens, like a 24-105 with an f2 aperture. And actually, I have another impossible lens. I want this exact lens, the 12-35. I want it the exact same size, but I just want it in an f2, not an f2.8. Or actually, if this is going to be an impossible lens, give it to me in an f1.7. So just basically make the 10-25, but put it in the size of the 12-35. And that would be perfect and give me the same image stabilization. Practically though, I think just a 24-70 on any camera is all that I need. That's what this 12-35 is. It's basically just a 24-70 standard, and I can do a lot with this one lens. So practically, just give me a 24-70. I really did like the 35-150 that Samyang sent me, but 35 is it's just tight enough to where it's like, you always want to be just a little bit wider sometimes. So that's why I would choose something with a 24mm at the wide end. All right, so next question is, when is your skateboarding doc series coming out? I don't have a skateboarding doc series, but I do have skateboarding related videos in mind for this summer. So stay tuned for that. I kind of want to start doing more like doc style pieces on my channel. I doubt they'll do well because anytime you put like a narrative or thought out short on YouTube that you put a lot of heart and soul into, they typically don't do super well unless you have like a huge channel, and that's what, like, you know, like what it's based around. But I'm sure if I do like a behind the scenes series on that, it might, you know, make up for the fact that they'll probably bomb. But yeah, stay tuned for those. I want to make some more skateboarding related content. I kind of feel like that's one thing that I keep telling myself that I need to do, and then I always just don't do it. So I definitely have plans to make some skateboarding related videos on my channel this summer. All right, so next question is, hey Nigel, what's the most difficult part in regards to process in creating consistent YouTube videos for you, and why? Example, is it pre-production or post-production? How about for client shoots? Yeah, so I think when it comes to the process of making videos, I want to say the most difficult part is probably post-production, and not because editing is hard for me, but I feel like when I'm putting together the edit, I start realizing that I need to shoot different parts, and then that just makes the actual production start all over again. And anyone who like makes YouTube videos and like has talked about anything and then realized that they don't have any footage of what they're talking about, and then they have to go out and then film what they were talking about in the video just so that they can add that B-roll in, that's the most frustrating part. Like, you always go out, you film a project, hold for sound, and then you get to your editing program, you start cutting it together, and you realize that you don't have enough footage. That's the most frustrating part. That's the most difficult part for me. When it comes to client shoots, I feel like the most difficult part is trying to wear so many hats, because I am a freelancer and I do a lot of just like one-man band or like two-man band operations. I'm usually acting as producer, as camera op, as DP, as like director sometimes. So I'm not good at all those things. And I think that's like a misconception that a lot of people have, is that like you have to be like top tier at every single position on set, and you don't. If you're going to be a freelancer, it helps if you're good at a lot of different things. But I definitely think that like the projects that stand out to me that always look better are the ones where I have someone who's acting as a director, or I have someone who's acting as a producer, or, you know, whatever the role is, as many roles that can be taken away from me and I can just focus on one. That is what makes the whole project better. So I think the most difficult part for me is when I'm literally in the role of everything. Like, it's just me. I have to light it, shoot it, direct it, produce it, all that type of stuff, edit it, color it, all that type of stuff. That's, I think, the most hard part for me, is when I'm wearing too many hats. So yeah, the folks over at Sunny 16, I would always say this on their podcast, but it's like, filmmaking is a team sport. And I definitely think that like, if you want to make great stuff, having more people helping you is going to help you achieve that. You can only do so much by yourself. So yeah, that's, those are the two most difficult parts for me. When I'm making my own videos, it's having to reshoot a bunch of stuff. And then when I'm making videos for clients, it's having to wear way too many hats. All right, this is a really, really hot topic right now. 100 men versus a silverback gorilla, who wins? I'm okay. Now, like, I've heard a lot of different arguments on this question. I think that 9 times out of 10, the silverback gorilla is going to probably win, especially if you take just like average built men like me. Maybe take 100 of me, the silverback gorilla is probably going to kill all of us. But I do think that there's an argument to be made where it's like, if there's 100 like military trained 250 pounds of pure muscle like Marines, you put them against the silverback gorilla, I still think that a lot of them are going to die. But I think after time, having to kill that many Marines, one of the Marines is going to be able to like take out the gorilla, I Am Legend style. You know what I mean? And there's also a question to be asked, like, is it all at once, like cage match style, or is it like one-on-one, the gorilla has to fight, 100 men one-on-one? Obviously in that situation, the gorilla is going to win every single time. But if it's like cage match and like they can all just go at him at one time, I think that the 100 men would have a better chance of winning. But yeah, again, it has to be like, the most brutal men that society can throw at this gorilla. Because yeah, I watched Chimp Crazy, and if you've watched that documentary, you know what just like a chimpanzee can do to a human being. So I couldn't even imagine what a silverback gorilla could do. All right, and the last question for this podcast is, hi Nigel, how do you have so much Riz? I think Riz is probably a Gen Z term that I'm not 100% sure what it means, but if it means like charisma, I don't think I have that much. Maybe you have to ask my wife if I have any Riz. I guess I had enough to, woo her and to marry her. But yeah, I don't think I have Riz at all. I'm kind of a kook. I say that a lot. But yeah, those are all the questions that I have on this podcast episode. Thank you so much for sticking with me and listening. Be sure to stay tuned. I'm pretty sure next week I'm going to release another podcast episode with Rhett Thompson, and we talk a little bit about some of the new Lumix cameras that are rumored to come out. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, thank you so much for listening. Again, if you want to support me on Patreon, I'll have links in the show notes and the description of this podcast episode. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.